The bankers make the most money when they are driving the economy into a financial crisis. What they are doing is really an illusion, they are just pulling future spending power into today. The 1920s roared at the expense of an impoverished 1930s. Japan roared on the money creation of real estate lending in the 1980s. They spent the next 30 years repaying the debt they had built up in the 1980s, and the economy flat-lined. Our economics is based on the assumption of profit maximization. However, what happens when this assumption is no longer valid when companies pay down debt at zero interest rates? This is when the economy has entered a balance sheet recession. In such a situation, monetary policy becomes a largely useless weapon. After years of monetary policy with limited effectiveness, we are now stuck in a QE trap. Bankers use bank credit to pump up asset prices, which doesn't actually create any wealth. The money creation of bank credit flows into the economy, making it boom, but we are heading towards a financial crisis, and claims on future prosperity are building up in the financial system. The top 1% has access to unlimited free money at 0% interest, unlike the bottom 99%. This means income growth is entirely irrelevant, and the 1% control the price of everything too. The Fed is the entire problem. The rigged money, monetary systems in the hands of a small few private criminal and corrupt profiteers is the cause. Their perpetual wealth transfer schemes are the cause. Their alleged authority to determine the value of energy, intellectual, creative and physical, is the cause. It's referred to as looting. Physical gold has served as trustless money for over 6,000 years because of corrupt governments and corrupt money changers, bankers, and their endless scheming and thievery. Physical gold used as a reserve, a restraint, in an honest system is unmatched. It's the technology that has made stealing easier for them. Their exchanges, markets, derivatives, the London, paper, fixing, etc. The removing of the physical gold from the equation has allowed an opening for their perpetual scheming and theft. The money changers, and Wall Street have convinced the dolts that their BS paper and pretty red-green candlestick charts are what establish real value and set a fair price for literally everything. And those who believe technology, encrypted money, is a better, more advanced, a more fair and honest solution are insane. The day will quickly come when 256K-bit encryption will be rigged, corrupted, or no longer encrypted. What technology has done is made the bankers' criminality exponentially easier. A society ruled by bankers ends up in penury, moral decay, and collapse. The concentration of wealth and unaccountability lead to societal collapse. All of this is caused by printed fiat, centrally controlled currency. 1984 has become a reality now. We're living the Davos sociopath's dream. Welcome back to the Atlantis Report. You are here for your daily dose of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please take a second to click the like button. As many of you have asked me about where they can buy silver and gold bullion. You will find in the description box the links where you can buy American Silver Eagle, silver bars, and rounds. I highly recommend that you too start stacking some silver bullion for the future. Big corporations are making money, while small businesses are shut down. The U.S. national debt clock increases 4 billion every day. The next phase of the economic collapse is the horde of zombie companies unable to meet debt obligations. It's both a liquidity and solvency problem, both public and private. The Fed has been hollering at Congress for months now asking for more stimulus. Maybe Yellen can get the job done, maybe not. There has been so much debt issued by zombie companies that they must either go bankrupt or face decades of zero growth. That is the idea of Schumpeter's creative destruction. Get rid of the deadwood to make way for new growth. Some companies are posting losses greater than their market value, and yet investors keep bidding up their stocks. They either A. don't know what they are doing, B. are expecting to sell to greater fools, i.e., speculating, or C. expect massive government bailouts of large zombie corporations. Why? Why should we bail them out? Why pump in more money? Let the economy be the economy. As a taxpayer and investor, I am sick and tired of knowing that I'm paying overinflated prices for fiscally irresponsible companies who should otherwise be bankrupt by now. Knowing that my future tax dollars will be used to fund these zombie companies now and into the future, for generations to come, is blood-boiling. This needs to stop. I feel the same way about those cities, states who are looking for a federal bailout. We all know who they are: Illinois, New York, California, who have been fiscally irresponsible for decades, long before the pandemic, with everything from funding pensions to fiscally irresponsible spending, etc. Now they want the rest of the country to bail them out, so they can continue their reckless spending. The behavior of both public traded companies and crooked politicians need to be held accountable. Main Street has been socialized and manipulated by the government. The assault on the middle class continues. Inequality skyrocketed, more businesses closed than opened. It will actually be a lot worse. Guaranteed. Collapse is the only future for America. There is no other path to rid this country of the Fed. This is all part of the World Economic Forum Great Reset to the new Green Communist World Order, which is happening across the West, including Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore. The new administration has said they had signed onto this agenda, which includes massive tax increases plus new taxes, a new digital cashless monetary system using central banks to issue their own currency, tokens, directly to a smartphone and your wallet. And in exchange for canceling your debt, you will give up all assets, and lease back those you use, canceling all sovereign debt. No need for banks, as no more lending or need to deposit funds when you have them on your person, which big tech will get a piece of every transaction, loss of freedom to gather with family and friends, limited travel even with health and travel certificates, draconian controls on everyone with more and more laws passed. Limited even more freedoms, complete destruction of most of the small and medium-sized businesses with job losses, financial and psychological devastation. And then they will implement their agenda as the population will accept anything for food, shelter and security. Europe has realized what is happening, and riots are all over. Most Americans have not and will not until they hit rock bottom, which is the agenda using the pandemic through 2022 to assure most businesses are destroyed. Political gridlock may appear to exist due to all of the jawboning in the press. But when it comes to deficit spending, the only fight is over how much of a deficit they can get away with this year. The fight is over which side gets to spend the most, thereby controlling most of the pie for their particular set of pimps. They even come up with outlandish schemes and psyops to give excuses and reasons for excessive debt spending, ergo the pandemic. There is little to no restraint today. All such came about as a result of fiat currency. When the state determines what is profitable, it places no value on that which the free market values. In a free market with sound currency, one can only succeed by serving their fellow man. In a fiat currency manipulated market, bribery in one form or another becomes the guide. There have been instances of such throughout our history, but since the Federal Reserve Act, it has become the dominant method. The number one reason for wealth inequality is rising taxes at all levels of government along with increased regulations, which add costs to businesses, reducing the available amount of capital for higher wages. As the government was taken over starting in the late 60s by the socialists and communists and have had this policy of big government and wealth confiscation through taxation and regulations. They have been raising taxes and coming up with new taxes at all levels of government for decades now. This reduces disposable income, lowers living standards, reduces GDP, and creates wealth inequality, which impacts more the middle class and especially below the most. The U.S. has become a socialist country with government at all levels taking a piece of the pie of everyone's labor and all businesses' profit. The socialist, Marxist, communist plan is to control populations by destroying disposable income, and that is exactly what has been happening for decades. Now with the Great Reset coming with confiscating all property and assets in exchange for canceling all debt and giving you a UBI. We are entering the final stage of implementing Communism 3.0 using MMT and the World Economic Forum's new Green Communist World Order. One peaceful way to prevent the parasitic elite from sucking dry the wealth of the country is to not give them your money in return for stocks. Stocks are a scam and exist for one singular purpose: to enrich the senior management and to provide an investment vehicle to drain the citizenry of their wealth. Every pension fund will go broke. It's only a matter of time. In the meantime, much of the wealth of the people will have been siphoned off into the pockets of the Wall Street jackals. And it's not as if there is not an alternative form of investment vehicle that is not simultaneously someone else's liability. Yes, I'm talking about precious metals in physical form. So, while we can rightly rail against the 1% whose occupation is to scam the public, the 99% have, at least as of today, the ability to bypass this corrupt system. Yet hardly any of them use this non-violent, non-corrupt method of investing. So while we still have the freedom to do it, divorce yourself from the system to the greatest extent possible, caveat emptor. The working class needs a silver standard to have a more equal footing in the world. That is why they always destroy silver or buy metal standards. Both silver and gold are money, and the dollar's days are numbered, and when it goes to zero, like all fiat eventually does, holders of both metals will have their purchasing power protected. Anyone holding fiat at the time of collapse will be wiped out. I don't care whether it's paper or digital, it matters not.